Thank you, Eric. Philosophy and cultural European motivations for space exploration. I added just one word, but this is an important word in the debate we will have. It's the word European. We referred to it before. What does it mean for us? And so on and so on. I'm not a philosopher, but I worked for, 40 years in a European context in Brussels, and it was mentioned also for ESA, where I'm still working for, and for the former DG of ESA. I want to pay tribute to this afternoon, Jean-Jacques Dordain, and you may applaud him because he did a great work in ESA and for ESA. So, let's start with European motivations, and let's start with some basic questions. Basic questions that, as to me, have to be answered first, before entering into the debate about how Europe should participate to the space exploration venture. So before entering into the how, let's look at the why questions and also at the where questions, as my former boss, Jean-Jacques Dordain, has mentioned this morning. Why Europe in space? Why a European leadership in space? Why space exploration? And why a European space exploration? And then we will come to the where for Europe to lead in space, everywhere or not, and where to lead and to invest in space, followed by some conclusions. Why Europe in space? And what is Europe? What is the future of Europe as a political and civilizational entity? This looks like a trivial question, but if we want to define what we want, we should start by defining who is we. What is Europe? What is the projection of the future of Europe in space? As to me, a European space culture, let's call it like this, cannot be independent of European culture and values, as defined in the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the EU, ratified in 2000 and today part of the treaties. Space culture and space policy are not independent of the global European political contexts. As, to take another example, the Green Deal of the Union could not be considered as a policy living a life on its own, not taking into account European values as, for instance, protection of our earth and of our environment, or limitation of the damage caused by climate change. So, why Europe in space? And second question, why a European leadership in space? When Europe wants to lead on Earth, it has to lead in space, said former NATO Secretary General Rasmussen during an ESA Council in March this year. He developed the idea of a European space mission, and to lead means to lead, as I referred to, for our values. So the right question is the space culture, exploration and exploitation, a European value? Is it part of European flagship values as humanism, curiosity, cooperation, peace, responsibility, solidarity, diversity? Is it part of our politically agreed flagship programs, like linked with environment, climate, green and blue earth. Again, these are just questions, but to avoid entering into too many budgetary debates, and they will come. To avoid that, today, we have to be clear on how we first answer these fundamental ethical and political questions. Budgets, as mentioned by Josef Aschbacher this morning, come afterwards. But to agree on them, it will be of utmost importance to know from where we start, to know what we agree on. Because if we don't know that, we will try to develop an exploration policy by doing things here and there. But there will be no logic in this. And if there is no logic in this, it will fail. Why space and why space exploration? We can state that Earthlings have to be there. We are Earthlings before being humans, as was remembered by Hannah Arendt. That, as stated by the Association of Space Explorers, and I quote them, humans are explorers. Curiosity is our nature, and the need to expand our reach is initially connected to our evolution. This is the case for human beings in general, for human beings of any country in the world. But which is the vision of space exploration specific to Europe, if any? We know, and Xavier referred to, we know that the Americans based their space exploration policy on the idea of manifest destiny, of frontier, and the Russians on the idea of cosmism. What is our European vision about exploration? And again, if any? And so, we should perhaps define, or try to define, because these are just questions, these are not answers. They have to be answers, these questions, but not necessarily now, but we have to think about them. Why do we develop a European space exploration? Perhaps to allow a common European dream and endeavor? Yes. And to pave the way for a more inclusive, ethical, and holistic exploration approach. Is there in space a place Europeans have to create in order to defend or to export our European values? Avoiding human excess, avoiding colonization of moons and planets, transhumanistic approaches, anarchic space tourism, and so on. We are, as stated in the paper produced by the Academy, Earthlings before being humans. We have, as Europeans, responsibilities for the future of our Earth. Should we develop a European space exploration policy to benefit from the scientific, economic, societal, and philosophical openness effects? Or, again, to promote European economy and to promote European autonomy, as it was done with the man-tended free flyer and Hermes before. But we should reflect why we didn't succeed. Because a lot of people say, yes, it was too costly. No. When you want to have something, when you have a policy, the budget may be, I don't say whatever it may be, but I remember Belgium, because I'm a Belgian, that tripled in '87 the budget for space. Because it was a good budget, because it was a good program, and because the minister at that time, Verhofstadt, it was a budgetary minister too, said, okay, let's go for it because there is a vision. If there is a vision, there will be money. if there is no vision, there will be no money. It says to me, it's as clear as that for me. So it's essential, as to me, to cover all these why questions before dealing with the how questions. So why, but also where? Where should we put the emphasis on? Where for Europe to lead in space? Should Europeans lead in public-private investments, in having strong public entities versus private companies, in methodologies to better develop space policies, in markets, in science, in technology, in research? Are or should these choices be linked to a European way of living civilization, including a social and economic model as, for instance, the social market economy? I will be very short on this because I see my friend Eric saying that my time should be over. But I should just mention the Duve model. You know, it's a prize winner, a Nobel Prize winner in Belgium, a Belgian Nobel Prize winner to be correct, and he said there are 4 forms of research. Fundamental research, where you know how to do, but not necessarily what you are looking for. Empiric research, the reverse. Applied research, you know, and what to do and what you are looking for. And then chance, that we can also qualify with the word serendipity. And all these 4 forms of research are important in society. So what should we develop in Europe to make space better understood and to make space better support? In summary, in other words, should Europe, in order to lead, concentrate on all aspects of space or more on certain aspects like security defense, like Green Deal, like climate? If we concentrate on exploration, is it on human exploration and on robotic exploration? It should be, and there I think it's more than a question, it's also an answer, a mix of both. We are not in the 80s and we have already answers to that. And is human space exploration part of the essence of our European values or our civilization? And I conclude with this last slide, because these questions are essential for the coming debate. Do we develop a long-term, inconsistent European human exploration policy in function of short-term political goals of some European member states, as we tend to do, because they oblige us to do it like this? Or, and this is of course the option I prefer, do we try to answer first the question in this presentation in order to develop a more coherent European human exploration policy? As said before, the ESA executive has answered this by mandating non-space experts to look into these questions. In other words, will Europe continue to react to initiatives of others, or will it act and not react as an autonomous entity and in function of our European values and our European political priorities? I thank you.